Hey everyone, it's Rachel, and this morning I watched Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus, and I am just here to talk about it a little bit now. So I guess first impressions, first off, probably not geared towards 23-year-olds. I'll say that first. So I read the series, multiple times growing up, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of my favorites. And so I was really excited when I heard that they were actually finally going to go through with doing a movie, because I thought that I had heard like years ago they were trying to do it. It might have been a dream, but I was pretty sure that I had heard that at some point that they were planning on doing a film. I don't know, I didn't look it up. So I was happy they finally went through with it and did it. There were some things that I was not necessarily happy with that they did in the movie. First off, a big thing for me that was like, why? Was the omission of Artemis's mother. And in the books, it shows their relationship, and like you get a different side of Artemis, and you get to know him more as a character through seeing him interact with his sick mother, and she's just not there. In fact, I'm pretty sure at one point they talk about how she died, and then that's like the only mention about it, and then she's not there anymore. And I feel like you almost needed that side to add more depth to Artemis, instead of just being kind of a know-it-all. But anyway, and I guess that's a big thing for me all the way around with the movie, was that the script adaptation took away from a lot of the relationships that the book establishes. And the books, they establish relationships over the series. So no, they didn't have to go full in with the first one, because they're probably hoping to just keep going with the series. However, they made Butler in the movie more like a henchman, and that's just not who he was to Artemis. Kind of. He was like his bodyguard, but there's also like a sense of respect and mutual trust, and it's almost like he sees him as like an uncle, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was just more like, do what I tell you to do, whatever. And you get it at the end. I'm not gonna spoil it, but whatever. And then his relationship with Holly Short, the fairy, as well. Their relationship evolves more later in the series, so I'm not gonna hit on them for that. And another thing that I wasn't crazy about necessarily was the casting of Officer Holly Short. I haven't seen them do anything else performance-wise. However, I didn't care for the portrayal of Holly, and what I'm not sure about that is if that's in the writing or in the acting. I was torn. In the book, I felt more like Holly was, she was very headstrong, she was independent, and she was hurt, so she had an agenda, but she was very independent, and she was a strong-willed, and she was a leader. And in the movie, to me, it kind of played a little bit more like angsty teen, and I didn't necessarily appreciate that. And there was a shift, and she became more like independent and a leader and all of that, but it still read more as angsty teen that gets the job they wanted, and I wasn't crazy about that. and the CGI in the movie was a little whack. And the beginning, it was set up through a narrative of Mulch, who's a dwarf, like sitting and he's being like interrogated or whatever, and like that sets up the movie. He's like, let me tell you the story about Artemis Fowl, and like that's all fine. It just that line of storytelling, the way that it was set up in the beginning felt a little bit forced to me, and by the end it was fine, but there were just some parts that seemed a little bit too forced. And yeah, like I said, the CGI, especially in Mulch, was weird. I felt like they could have done more, but I suppose because Mulch has to like unhinge his jaw because he like eats dirt, so it gets like really big, and they probably did it the way they did it to be less scary, but it just looks weird. Anyway, so some of the cinematography was a little off, but that was probably to toe the Disney line. But for the most part, the acting was great. The casting, they had a lot of big names there, and it, like, everyone did fine. I'm not here to like trash the actors or anything like that. I felt, my hope is if they continue on, that they will stick a little bit more true to the books. And I know it's based on, and it's an adaptation, and nothing has to be exact. The next book is one of my favorites in the whole series. So if they do continue, I hope that they don't deviate too far from that. And that's just my hope. But I'll also say this is a very hard story to try to convey in a believable way on the screen, just because there are so many weird elements in it. So I thought they did a good job. It, for me, wasn't close enough to the book as I would have liked, and the book was far better. I would recommend reading the book, either before you watch the movie or after. Would I recommend this? I would give the movie overall maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10, because it wasn't that bad. But for me, having read the books multiple times growing up, and when I was growing up, I really wanted to be in the movie adaptation, but I'm not Irish, so you know, there's that. And yeah, there's some strong elements there, but there were just some things that I was watching and I'm like, I don't know about that. But again, probably not written for a 23-year-old. Those are just my thoughts. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening to me ramble about Artemis Fowl, the movie. I would recommend go checking it out if you have a Disney Plus subscription. If not, I'm not sure that I would necessarily tell you to subscribe just for that movie, because I'm not sure it was worth that. But Disney Plus has some awesome things coming up, and especially Hamilton is coming out this Friday, actually. So anyway, I'm not sponsored by Disney Plus. They don't even know who I am. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye.